Racist zoo employee throws black child into tiger enclosure, and what happens next is unbelievable. Hey everyone! Before we dive into this incredible story, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our amazing stories. Comment which city you're watching from. I can't wait to get to know you all. Now, buckle up, because this story is about to blow your mind. Derek Williams had been a model employee at the Oakwood City Zoo for over 15 years. At least, that's what everyone thought. Behind his cordial smile and impeccable uniform lurked a man consumed by inexplicable hatred. His true nature remained hidden, like a serpent waiting for the perfect moment to strike. On this sunny Sunday morning, 8-year-old Michael was visiting the zoo with his school class. His eyes sparkled with fascination at each animal, especially as he approached the tiger enclosure. No one could have predicted that this moment of pure innocence was about to transform into an event that would forever change the lives of everyone present. The sun was beginning to set when Derek spotted Michael alone near the safety barrier. A sinister smile formed on his lips as he approached the child. What happened in the next few moments would defy not only the laws of nature, but everything we know about instinct and humanity. At the heart of Oakwood City, the zoo was more than just a tourist attraction. It was a place steeped in history, witnessing the evolution of the relationship between humans and animals since its creation in 1934. The Siberian tiger, Raja, had become the undisputed star of the zoo, attracting visitors from all over the world. Michael, the son of African-American parents, a college professor and a civil rights attorney, had an overflowing passion for animals. His parents had saved for months to afford this school trip for him. Wearing his favorite Black Panther t-shirt, he had briefly strayed from the group to observe Raja more closely. Dr. Sarah Thompson, the zoo's chief veterinarian, had noticed subtle changes in Derek's behavior in recent weeks. She had noted in her professional journal various minor incidents, alterations in animal feeding sheets, especially on days when black families visited the sector, and suspicious accidents with safety equipment. Among the visitors present that day was also Jack Harper, an investigative journalist who had been collecting evidence for months on cases of institutional racism in public establishments. His interest in the zoo had been piqued by anonymous tip-offs about the discriminatory behavior of certain employees. The tiger enclosure was an imposing structure, with a 5-meter deep protection moat, reinforced grills, and an elevated observation area. On this late afternoon, the place was particularly quiet, with only a few scattered families observing the big cats. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in orange hues, creating elongated shadows that seemed to dance across the zoo grounds. Derek had just received a warning from the zoo management for inappropriate comments overheard by a visitor. This had been the final straw for his pent-up hatred, which was now overflowing like a glass filled too full. What no one knew was that Raja, the zoo's largest feline, harbored a secret that was about to be revealed. As the tension in the air grew thicker, the stage was set for an event that would challenge everything we thought we knew about the boundaries between humans and animals, and the depths of both cruelty and compassion. The Oakwood City Zoo wasn't just another workplace for Derek Williams. As the headkeeper of the big cat section, he had built a solid reputation over the years. His colleagues considered him strict but competent. What they didn't notice were the looks of contempt he cast at black visitors, or how he was, coincidentally, always busy when African-American families asked for information. Derek had grown up in a small town where racial tensions were palpable. His father, a former police officer, had instilled far-right ideas in him from a young age. These prejudices were reinforced when he lost a promotion to a black colleague in his previous job. Michael was the son of Dr. James and attorney Lisa Johnson, both prominent figures in the local African-American community. An inquisitive and kind child, he had a special gift with animals. Even the most skittish cats in the neighborhood adored him. On this day, proudly wearing his Black Panther t-shirt, he had briefly strayed from the group to observe Raja, the 500-pound Siberian tiger that was the zoo's star attraction. Raja had his own story. Rescued as a cub from an illegal circus, he had been raised by an African-American keeper, Mrs. Evelyn Washington, who had retired a few months earlier. Raja was the only tiger in the zoo to exhibit an almost docile behavior towards black humans, a phenomenon that veterinarians had never been able to explain scientifically. Derek had always despised this peculiarity of the animal, considering it a behavioral aberration. Dr. Sarah Thompson, the zoo's chief veterinarian, was a brilliant woman in her late 40s. She had dedicated her life to animal welfare and had been instrumental in transforming the zoo into a leading conservation center. Lately, she had been troubled by the subtle changes in Derek's behavior, meticulously documenting every incident in her journal. Jack Harper, the investigative journalist present that day, had built his career on exposing social injustices. His current project on institutional racism had led him to the zoo, following a trail of anonymous tips and disturbing patterns of behavior. Mrs. Washington, though retired, still visited the zoo regularly. She carried with her an African amulet that she had always used during Raja's training, a family heirloom that, according to her grandmother's stories, had the power to connect humans and animals. The zoo itself was a microcosm of the city's diversity. Founded in 1934, it had evolved from a simple menagerie to a world-class conservation and research facility. The big cat section, in particular, was one of the most prestigious, with a team of 15 professionals supervised by Derek. As the afternoon wore on, the school group Michael was part of continued their tour. His teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, was a passionate educator who believed in experiential learning. She had organized this trip not just as a fun outing, but as part of a broader curriculum on biodiversity and conservation. Unknown to everyone, this day would mark a definitive change in the zoo's history. Security cameras, strategically positioned, would record every moment of what was about to happen, though some would mysteriously experience technical glitches at crucial moments. The air grew thick with tension as the sun began to set. Animals throughout the zoo became restless, as if sensing the impending drama. Raja, usually napping at this hour, paced his enclosure, his eyes fixed on the observation deck where Michael stood sketching. Derek, his face a mask of forced neutrality, approached Michael. His years of harboring hatred had reached a boiling point, fueled by recent reprimands and what he perceived as the zoo's increasing focus on diversity. As twilight descended, the zoo took on an almost mythical quality. The fading light cast long shadows, blurring the lines between the world of humans and animals. It was in this liminal space that the unthinkable was about to unfold. Little did anyone know that the events about to transpire would not only challenge the boundaries between species, but would also force a reckoning with the deeply rooted issues of racism and prejudice that lurked beneath the surface of their seemingly progressive society. The sun was setting when Derek noticed Michael approaching the safety barrier. The boy was absorbed in his drawings, recording every detail of Raja in his notebook. The tiger, meanwhile, displayed unusual behavior. Instead of his typical evening drowsiness, he remained alert, his amber eyes fixed on the boy with a disconcerting intensity. Derek observed the moment with growing irritation. The success of the school visit, the compliments Michael received from other visitors for his detailed drawings, and especially the visible connection between the boy and Raja, made his blood boil. Each of the child's smiles felt like a personal provocation, reigniting memories of his recent warning. "Hey, kid," Derek called, his voice forcedly friendly. "Want to see Raja up close? I know a special observation spot." The invitation sounded natural. After all, he was the supervisor, wearing his official uniform and identification badge. Michael, in his innocence, didn't notice the dangerous glint in the employee's eyes. Ms. Rodriguez, the teacher responsible for the class, was occupied a few meters away, helping another student with their camera. The other visitors, scattered around the area, were distracted by their own activities. The moment Derek had been waiting for had arrived, the perfect opportunity to execute the plan forming in his disturbed mind. He led Michael to a more secluded area of the enclosure, supposedly a privileged observation point. The location, strategically chosen, was out of range of the functional security cameras. Derek had ensured this earlier, manipulating the surveillance system during his morning rounds. "You know, kid," Derek began, his tone changing drastically, "there are people who shouldn't even be here." His words dripped with venom. Michael, realizing the danger too late, tried to move away, but Derek already held him firmly by the arm. What happened next was quick and brutal. With a calculated movement, Derek lifted Michael over the safety barrier. The boy, panicked, clung to the metal bar, his eyes wide with terror. Raja, who had been observing everything with unusual calm, rose in a fluid motion. "Let's see if your little tiger friend likes you so much now," Derek mocked, forcing the boy's fingers to release the railing. Time seemed to freeze at that moment. The screams of other children from the excursion, who now noticed the scene, echoed through the zoo. But something unexpected began to happen. Raja, instead of showing his usual territorial aggression, remained strangely controlled. His movements were precise, calculated, almost as if he were executing a rehearsed choreography. The tiger positioned himself strategically, his muscles tense beneath his striped coat. Derek, in his moment of sick triumph, didn't notice the sudden change in the enclosure's atmosphere. The other zoo animals, normally noisy at this hour, plunged into a sepulchral silence. The air seemed charged with electricity, like moments before a devastating storm. Ms. Rodriguez, finally alerted by the screams, ran towards the scene, her cell phone already in hand, calling security. Other zoo employees, sensing the commotion, began to converge on the area, but they would arrive too late to prevent what was about to happen. Derek's smile began to falter. Something in Raja's behavior deeply disturbed him. The tiger wasn't acting as he should. He wasn't showing the expected ferocity, wasn't roaring threateningly. Instead, his eyes, those same eyes that had bothered Derek so much, seemed to glow with an almost supernatural intelligence. Jack Harper, the journalist, had pulled out his camera and was frantically filming the scene. He knew he was capturing something extraordinary, far beyond his initial investigation into institutional racism. In the zoo offices, Dr. Thompson, observing through the still-functioning cameras, began recording everything on her personal phone, anticipating that the official recordings might mysteriously disappear, as had happened in previous incidents. Mrs. Washington, who happened to be nearby, felt her amulet vibrate strangely against her chest. An ancient and powerful energy seemed to awaken, connecting past to present in a moment of extreme tension. As Michael fell into the enclosure, time seemed to slow down. The fate of the child, the tiger, and all the witnesses present was about to pivot in an instant, challenging everything they thought they knew about human and animal nature. Raja's muscles tensed, ready to spring into action. The onlookers held their breath, expecting the worst. But what happened next would defy all expectations and change the course of history for everyone involved. As the main drama unfolded in the tiger enclosure, several other stories intertwined at this crucial moment. Mrs. Evelyn Washington, Raja's former keeper, was visiting the zoo that day by a strange coincidence. After her retirement, she had kept the habit of visiting her former protégé monthly, always at the same time, near sunset, when the tiger was most receptive. In her bag, she carried an African amulet that she had always used during Raja's training, a family heirloom that, according to her grandmother's stories, had the power to connect humans and animals. Over years of working with the tiger, Mrs. Washington had developed an inexplicable bond with the animal, something that went beyond the normal relationship between a keeper and a feline. Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah Thompson, the zoo's chief veterinarian, had noticed subtle changes in Derek's behavior in recent weeks. She had noted in her professional journal various minor incidents, alterations in animal feeding sheets, especially on days when black families visited the sector, and suspicious accidents with safety equipment. Michael's mother, Dr. Lisa Johnson, a professor of African American studies, had chosen this specific day for the school visit for a particular reason. It was the anniversary of a significant civil rights milestone. She had told her son ancient legends about the connection between humans and animals, blending African and Native American traditions. Among the visitors present was also Jack Harper, an investigative journalist who had been collecting evidence for months on cases of institutional racism in public establishments. His interest in the zoo had been piqued by anonymous tip-offs about the discriminatory behavior of certain employees. The zoo's security was facing inexplicable technical problems that week. Cameras that failed specifically in certain areas, always during Derek's shift. The head of security, Robert Martinez, about to retire, had begun to piece together this puzzle, but didn't yet have concrete evidence for a formal complaint. At the precise moment Michael was lifted over the barrier, 3 simultaneous events occurred. Mrs. Washington crossed the zoo gates with her amulet. Jack positioned his camera to document Derek's suspicious behavior, and an ancient prophecy, told by Lisa to her son that morning, began to make sense. Mrs. Washington's amulet, which always emitted a soft glow near Raja, now pulsed with an intensity never seen before. The tiger, who already exhibited unique behavior towards black visitors, seemed to be connected to an ancestral force that no one here could fully comprehend. Dr. Thompson, observing from her office through the still-functioning cameras, began recording everything on her personal phone, anticipating that the official recordings might mysteriously disappear, as had happened in previous incidents. These different narrative lines converged on a single moment, like rivers flowing into the same ocean. Each character, each seemingly isolated element, had its role in what was about to happen. Fate had woven a complex web of events that now manifested in its totality. The air seemed charged with a palpable energy, as if the entire zoo was holding its breath. Visitors, employees, and even the animals seemed to sense that something extraordinary was about to occur. The fate of Michael, Raja, and all those present was about to pivot in an instant, challenging everything they thought they knew about human and animal nature, about racism, and about the invisible bonds that unite all living creatures. As Michael teetered on the edge of the enclosure, time seemed to slow. The collective gasp of the onlookers was drowned out by a deafening silence that fell over the zoo. In this suspended moment, the boundaries between human and animal, between the physical and the spiritual, blurred into insignificance. The stage was set for an event that would redefine not just the lives of those present, but the very notion of what was possible in the world. The moment that followed defied all laws of nature and logic. When Michael finally fell into the enclosure, time seemed to slow down. Derek's cruel smile froze as he witnessed something no one could have predicted. Raja, the imposing Siberian tiger, moved with supernatural grace. Instead of attacking as his natural instinct would dictate, the feline glided through the air in a precise leap, positioning his 500-pound body exactly where Michael would land. The boy fell softly onto the tiger's striped fur, as if an invisible force was guiding his fall. At this exact moment, Mrs. Washington's amulet, who had just arrived running to the scene, emitted an intense blue glow. An ancient and powerful energy seemed to envelop the enclosure. The other animals in the zoo began to vocalize in unison, a primitive chorus that sent chills through all those present. "Impossible!" Derek shouted, his face contorted into a mask of horror and disbelief. But the real shock was yet to come. Raja, with Michael safely on his back, turned to face the aggressor. His eyes, usually amber, now shone with a supernatural blue hue, the same color as Mrs. Washington's amulet. The tiger let out a roar that didn't seem to belong to this world. It wasn't the usual sound of a feline. It carried echoes of ancestral drums, of ancient stories whispered around campfires on endless nights. Derek, for the first time in his life, felt true terror. He tried to back away, but his legs wouldn't respond. The power emanating from Raja paralyzed him. The security cameras that were still working captured everything, broadcasting live to the control center monitors. Jack Harper filmed uninterruptedly, his hands shaking at this surreal scene. Then came the true turning point. Raja, still with Michael on his back, began to grow. His body emitted a bluish light, and his stripes seemed to move as if they were alive. The tiger rose on its hind legs, reaching an impossible height. His form now blended feline characteristics with something else, something ancestral and majestic. Mrs. Washington's voice cut through the air. It's the manifestation of the spirit of the forest, the ancestral protection. Her words seemed to carry the weight of generations of wisdom. The amulet in her hands pulsed to the same rhythm as Raja's heart, creating a visible connection through beams of blue light. Derek, still paralyzed, saw his own distorted reflection in the tiger's supernatural eyes. All his actions, all his hatred and prejudice were exposed in an instant of brutal clarity. The tiger didn't need to attack. Its mere presence was enough to shatter the barriers of hate that Derek had built over the years. The public watched the scene in stunned silence. Children, adults, employees, all were witnessing something that defied modern understanding. Michael, still on Raja, showed no signs of fear. On the contrary, he smiled with the serenity of someone who understands a truth greater than words can express. In a fluid movement, Raja gently deposited Michael safely next to Mrs. Washington, who embraced him protectively. The tiger then turned its full attention to Derek, who finally found his voice in a scream of pure terror. What happened next would forever change not only the lives of those present, but the very history of the Oakwood City Zoo. Raja approached Derek slowly, each step shaking the ground. The tiger's eyes, still supernaturally blue, seemed to probe the very soul of the man. Suddenly, a voice resonated, a voice that seemed to come both from Raja and from everywhere around. Look at yourself, man filled with hatred. See what your fear and ignorance almost caused. But know this, even in the deepest darkness, a light can shine. Derek fell to his knees, overwhelmed by a wave of emotions he had never felt before. Remorse, shame, but also a spark of hope. The tiger gently touched Derek's forehead with its giant paw, and in an instant, the man saw flashing before his eyes all the consequences of his actions, but also the possibilities of a different future. As the blue light began to fade, and Raja slowly returned to his normal size, all witnesses to this extraordinary scene knew that nothing would ever be the same again. A profound transformation had just taken place, not only in Derek, but in each of them. Dr. Thompson, watching from the control room, whispered in awe, "This changes everything we thought we knew about animal cognition and interspecies communication." As the sun set over the Oakwood City Zoo, the world held its breath, waiting to see how this incredible event would unfold and change the course of history. Derek's scream echoed throughout the zoo, marking the beginning of a series of frenzied events. Security, police, and paramedics flooded the area, creating a scene of organized chaos. Raja, still emanating a supernatural aura, calmly retreated to the back of his enclosure, his eyes never leaving Derek. Dr. Sarah Thompson was the first professional to arrive on the scene. Her expression oscillated between scientific amazement and almost religious reverence. "In 30 years of career, I've never seen anything like this," she murmured, checking Michael for injuries. To everyone's surprise, the boy was completely unharmed. More than that, Michael radiated a surprising calmness. "The tiger protected me," he said simply, his voice carrying a maturity beyond his years. "He showed me things I can't explain." Meanwhile, Derek was being detained by the police. The man who moments ago exuded hatred and arrogance was now reduced to an almost catatonic state. He repeated incessantly, "His eyes, they saw everything. They know everything." The officers exchanged confused looks, uncertain how to handle the situation. Michael's parents arrived in tears, embracing their son with a mixture of relief and astonishment. "The stories," his mother whispered, "the ancient legends. They're real." Her gaze met Mrs. Washington's, and a silent understanding passed between the two women. Jack Harper, the journalist, realized he had in his hands much more than a simple report on institutional racism. "This goes beyond any story I've ever covered," he thought, already anticipating the global implications of what he had just witnessed. Social media exploded with videos and photos of the incident. Hashtags like Zoo Miracle and Protect a Tiger became trending topics within minutes. Theories of all kinds began to emerge online, ranging from elaborate scientific explanations to complex conspiracy theories. The zoo director, pale and visibly shaken, called an impromptu press conference. "We are investigating the incident in its full extent," he declared, his voice trembling slightly. "The safety of our visitors is our top priority, and actions will be taken." As authorities began their investigations, a subtle transformation was occurring in the tiger enclosure. Raja, now back to his normal form, exhibited remarkably different behavior. Other keepers noticed that the remaining zoo animals seemed calmer, almost reverential towards the tiger. Mrs. Washington, still holding her now inert amulet, was surrounded by reporters, eager for explanations. With serene wisdom, she simply smiled and said, "There are more mysteries in this world than we can understand. Today, ancestry spoke louder than hate." As night fell, the Oakwood City Zoo transformed into an epicenter of speculation and questioning. Scientists, religious leaders, and curious individuals of all kinds began to arrive, each seeking their own answers to the inexplicable event. Michael, now surrounded by his family and protected from cameras, looked pensively at Raja's enclosure. Something had fundamentally changed in him. "Mom," he said softly, "I think I understand now why you always said we should respect all forms of life." Dr. Thompson, analyzing the incident footage, muttered to herself, "This could revolutionize our understanding of animal cognition and interspecies communication. We might be on the brink of a scientific paradigm shift." The city, the country, and soon the entire world waited with bated breath to see how this extraordinary story would unfold. One thing was certain. Nothing would be the same after the day a tiger defied not only nature, but also the deep-rooted prejudices of society. As the last visitors were ushered out of the zoo, a palpable sense of change hung in the air. The events of the day had shaken the foundations of what many thought they knew about the world, about animals, and about the capacity for both cruelty and compassion in human hearts. In the weeks following the incident, the Oakwood City Zoo became the epicenter of a social and spiritual transformation that no one could have predicted. The case of Michael and Raja catalyzed profound changes, not only in the institution, but in American society as a whole. Michael, now known as the Tiger Boy, faced his new reality with surprising maturity. Initially shy in the face of media attention, he gradually found his voice. "I'm not a hero," he declared in a carefully organized interview. "Raja is the real hero. He showed me that courage can overcome hate." The boy began using his newfound fame to promote awareness about racism and the importance of animal conservation. His visits to local schools became highly anticipated events, where he shared not only his experience, but also the lessons of respect and understanding he had learned. Raja, meanwhile, became a worldwide attraction. Scientists from around the globe came to study the tiger, seeking explanations for his extraordinary behavior. Although no physical anomalies were detected, everyone noticed a change in his demeanor, a serenity and intelligence that seemed almost human. Mrs. Washington emerged as a central figure in this new narrative. Her ancestral wisdom, once marginalized, was now sought after by academics and spiritual leaders. She began offering workshops at the zoo, teaching about the connection between humans and animals, drawing on long-forgotten African traditions. What happened here, she calmly explained, was a reminder of the power of ancestry and the need for mutual respect among all creatures. The zoo underwent a complete overhaul, not just in its physical structure, but in its philosophy. New educational programs were implemented, focusing on cultural diversity and conservation. Raja's enclosure was redesigned to reflect a more natural environment, becoming a model for zoos worldwide. Derek, the former employee, faced the legal consequences of his actions. However, the most surprising was his own transformation. During his trial, he asked to speak directly to Michael and his family. "What I saw that day," he said, his voice choked, "destroyed everything I believed in. The hatred I carried, it was as if Raja had looked straight into my soul and shown me how empty I was." His request for forgiveness, broadcast live, became a powerful moment of reconciliation and national reflection on racism. Michael's parents, inspired by the events, initiated a cultural education program at the zoo, integrating traditional African stories with lessons on ecology and mutual respect. "We're relearning ancient truths," Michael's mother explained. "The connection between humans and nature isn't new. We're just rediscovering what our ancestors always knew." Dr. Thompson published a groundbreaking paper on animal cognition based on her observations of Raja. Her work challenged scientific paradigms and opened new fields of study on animal intelligence and emotionality. Jack Harper, the journalist who witnessed the event, released a documentary that became a global sensation. Beyond the Cage, the story of Michael and Raja, not only narrated the incident, but explored deep questions about racism, conservation, and the relationship between humans and animals. Michael, now entering adolescence, continued his journey of personal growth. He started a youth club at the zoo, focused on environmental education and racial equality. "What I learned from Raja," he told new members, "is that true strength comes from understanding and mutual respect." As time passed, the zoo miracle ceased to be just a sensational event and became a lasting symbol of transformation. The story of Michael and Raja was told and retold, inspiring people around the world to rethink their attitudes towards nature and each other. The Oakwood City Zoo, once just a tourist attraction, became a center for research, education, and cultural reconciliation. At the heart of it all, Raja continued, his majestic presence reminding all visitors of the day, a tiger taught a lesson in humanity that no one would ever forget. National policies on animal welfare and conservation saw significant reforms, with politicians citing the Raja incident as a wake-up call for more ethical treatment of animals and the environment. Educational curricula across the country began incorporating lessons on interspecies empathy and the historical context of human-animal relationships, drawing parallels with civil rights movements. As the first anniversary of the event approached, the zoo prepared for a special commemoration that would bring together people from all walks of life, united in their commitment to a more compassionate and understanding world. 1 year after the incident, the Oakwood City Zoo was preparing for a special ceremony, the inauguration of the Michael Raja Harmony Center, a new complex dedicated to research on interspecies relationships and anti-racism education. The event would attract international attention, with world leaders, renowned scientists, and human and animal rights activists confirming their attendance. On the eve of the ceremony, a palpable tension hung in the air. Rumors circulated about possible protests from extremist groups who viewed the incident as a threat to their entrenched beliefs. Security had been heightened, but everyone hoped that the spirit of unity would prevail. Michael, now 9 years old, spent hours in Raja's enclosure, seemingly in deep, silent communication with the tiger. His parents and Mrs. Washington observed with a mixture of admiration and concern. "He carries an enormous weight for someone so young," his mother commented. Mrs. Washington, her amulet always around her neck, seemed restless. "Something is coming," she murmured. "The ancestral spirits are stirring." Her enigmatic prediction put everyone on alert. Dr. Thompson worked frantically in her laboratory, analyzing the latest data collected on Raja. "There's something here," she muttered to herself, staring at graphs of the tiger's brainwaves, a pattern I've never seen in any animal before. Meanwhile, behind the scenes of the ceremony, the zoo director faced an unexpected crisis. A group of investors was pushing for a more commercial approach to the new center, threatening to withdraw crucial funds if their demands weren't met. "We can't compromise our mission," he insisted, feeling the weight of the decision. In the city, the atmosphere was one of anticipation. Hotels were fully booked, streets decorated with banners celebrating the union between species. But not everyone was celebrating. In dark alleys, extremist groups planned to disrupt the event, determined to keep the flame of hatred and division alive. Derek, serving his sentence on probation, had requested permission to attend the ceremony. His presence was controversial, but many saw his participation as a powerful symbol of redemption and change. The night before the big day, an unexpected storm hit the city. Lightning illuminated the sky, and thunder made the ground tremble. At the zoo, the animals were restless, vocalizing unusually. Raja, however, remained strangely calm, his eyes fixed in the direction where the new center would be inaugurated. The first light of morning revealed a transformed city. The storm had left a trail of fallen branches and flooded streets, but also an air of renewal. A bright rainbow stretched over the zoo, as if nature itself was giving its blessing to the event. As the first guests began to arrive, Michael woke from a vivid dream. "Mom," he said with surprising conviction, "today Raja will speak to all of us." His declaration was met with gentle smiles, but something in the tone of his voice made everyone wonder if the boy knew something they didn't. The hours leading up to the ceremony were filled with frantic preparations. Journalists positioned themselves, security guards made final checks, and an almost palpable energy of anticipation enveloped the venue. Dr. Thompson, reviewing her latest findings, felt a surge of excitement. "If what I'm seeing is correct," she thought, "we're on the brink of redefining our understanding of animal consciousness." Mrs. Washington gathered a small group of elders from various cultural backgrounds, preparing for what she called a ceremony of unity. They positioned themselves around Raja's enclosure, their presence adding an air of ancient wisdom to the proceedings. As the crowd gathered, a hush fell over the zoo. The air seemed charged with possibility, as if the very fabric of reality was stretching to accommodate what was about to unfold. Everyone felt they were on the verge of something monumental, something that could change the course of history. The stage was set for an event that no one would ever forget. The moment of inauguration arrived, and the amphitheater of the new Michael Raja Harmony Center was packed. World leaders, scientists, activists, and ordinary citizens mingled, united by curiosity and hope. Michael, wearing a shirt with Raja's image, occupied the center of the stage along with his family, Mrs. Washington, and the zoo director. The director's opening speech was interrupted by a deafening roar. Raja, who should have been in his enclosure, appeared majestically at the entrance of the amphitheater. The crowd fell silent, mesmerized. The tiger advanced with deliberate steps towards the stage, his eyes once again glowing with that supernatural blue hue. Security guards hesitated, unsure how to react, but Michael raised his hand, signaling that everything was all right. The boy descended from the stage and walked towards Raja, meeting him halfway. What happened next defied all logic and understanding. Raja opened his mouth, and to everyone's amazement, human words emerged. "I speak through this boy, for his heart is pure." The voice was deep, ancestral, echoing not just in the amphitheater but seeming to resonate in the very consciousness of each person present. "We come from different worlds, but our essence is the same. Gasps of surprise and murmurs of disbelief rippled through the audience. Live TV cameras captured every moment, broadcasting the impossible event to the entire world. For millennia, continued Raja Michael, humans and animals coexisted in harmony, but fear and greed created divisions not only between species, but among yourselves. Today, we are here to remind everyone of the fundamental truth. We are one. At this moment, Mrs. Washington's amulet began to glow intensely. She raised it, and a beam of blue light connected the amulet, Raja, and Michael, forming a luminous triangle. The knowledge you call science and what you call spirituality are not opposites, but faces of the same coin, the voice continued. The wisdom of your ancestors and the discoveries of your laboratories point to the same truth. Everything is connected. Dr. Thompson's jaw dropped, frantically looked at her measuring instruments. Impossible, she murmured, seeing readings that defied everything she knew about physics and biology. Raja, Michael's voice became more urgent. Prejudice, hatred, the destruction of the planet, all of this is born from the illusion of separation. But there is no separation. What you do to one, you do to all. At this moment, something extraordinary began to happen. People in the audience started seeing images, memories, not just their own, but of others. For a brief moment, each person experienced life through the eyes of another, different races, cultures, even species. It was a wave of pure, overwhelming empathy. Derek, who was at the back of the amphitheater, fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I understand now," he sobbed. "I truly understand." The voice continued. "This is just the beginning. The path ahead is long, but today you take the first step. Remember this connection, nurture it, let it guide your actions." As he spoke, the glow around Raja, Michael, and the amulet began to expand, enveloping the entire audience in a soft blue light. For a moment, all those present felt a profound sense of unity, with each person there, with every living being on the planet. Then, as suddenly as it began, the phenomenon ceased. Raja returned to his normal form, and Michael stumbled slightly, supported by his mother. The silence that followed was palpable, laden with emotion and reverence. Then slowly, applause began. It grew into a deafening crescendo, mixed with cries of joy and embraces between strangers. The zoo director, still stunned, approached the microphone. I think we just witnessed the true meaning of harmony," he said, his voice choked with emotion. Michael, recovering, looked at the audience with eyes that seemed to contain the wisdom of ages. "It's not the end," he said simply. "It's just the beginning." As the sun set over the Oakwood City Zoo, the entire world processed what it had witnessed. A new era had begun. An era of understanding, empathy, and unity that transcended species and cultures. Dr. Thompson, her hands shaking, turned to her colleagues. "We've just entered a new frontier of science," she declared. "Our understanding of consciousness, of life itself, will never be the same." As the crowd slowly dispersed, still in awe of what they had experienced, there was a sense that the world had irreversibly changed. The boundaries between human and animal, between different races and cultures, had blurred, revealing a deeper, more fundamental unity. In the weeks and months that followed the extraordinary event at the Michael Raja Harmony Center, the world experienced an unprecedented transformation. The recording of Raja Michael's speech became the most watched video in internet history, translated into hundreds of languages and endlessly analyzed by experts from all fields. The impact was immediate and profound. World leaders, inspired by the demonstration of unity, convened an emergency summit to address global issues such as climate change, inequality, and conflicts. For the first time, there was genuine consensus, and concrete actions were implemented on a global scale. The Oakwood City Zoo transformed into a pilgrimage site, with people from all over the world coming to see Raja and Michael. The tiger, though never speaking again in the same way, maintained an aura of wisdom that everyone could feel. Michael, in turn, became a global ambassador for peace and understanding, his youth contrasting with the depth of his words. Science experienced a revolution. Dr. Thompson led a new area of research that united biology, quantum physics, and consciousness studies. Her discoveries began to bridge the gap between scientific knowledge and ancient spiritual traditions. Mrs. Washington established a school of ancestral wisdom, where African traditions were studied alongside the latest scientific discoveries. Her amulet, now an object of intense study, revealed properties that defied current understanding of physics. Derek, completely transformed by the experience, dedicated his life to rehabilitating former criminals and promoting intercultural understanding. His story of redemption inspired millions, proving that change was possible even for those who once embraced hate. The concept of animal rights evolved dramatically. Zoos worldwide were redesigned as conservation and education centers, with a focus on harmonious coexistence between species. Illegal hunting and habitat destruction decreased significantly as global awareness of the interconnection of all life forms grew. Education was revolutionized, with programs emphasizing empathy, intercultural understanding, and respect for the environment being implemented in schools around the world. The new generation was growing up with a radically different perspective on their relationship with the planet and each other. As the world continued to process and integrate the lesson of unity demonstrated on that extraordinary day, one thing became clear. Humanity had taken a giant step towards a future of harmony and mutual understanding. The legacy of Michael and Raja would continue to shape the world for generations to come, reminding everyone that in the end, we are truly one. The Oakwood City Zoo, once just a local attraction, became a symbol of global unity and a beacon of hope for a better future. It stood as a living testament to the power of understanding, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between all living beings. 10 years after the transformative event, Michael, now a young adult, returned to the Oakwood City Zoo. Raja, aged but still majestic, greeted him with a look of deep recognition. Together, they observed a changed world. Children of all ethnicities played harmoniously, visitors interacted respectfully with the animals, and solar panels reflected the commitment to sustainability. Michael smiled, remembering the words that echoed on that fateful day. It's just the beginning. The path to complete harmony was still long, but each day humanity took another step towards a future of unity and mutual respect. The legacy of their extraordinary connection continued to inspire and guide a world transformed. Wow! If you've made it this far, you're truly amazing. This story of Michael and Raja shows us the power of understanding and unity. Now I want to hear from you. If this story touched your heart, comment, "I watched until the end," and share which part moved you the most. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exciting stories. And hey, check out the video popping up on your screen now. I'm sure you'll love it. Together, let's spread more love and understanding in the world.